In just 32 seconds, one of Hollywood's biggest legends completely lost his cool on live television, turning a simple morning chat into an absolute meltdown that ended with him being thrown off the set. What started as light banter between Michael Strahan and Robert De Niro on Good Morning America quickly spiraled into a profanity-laced shouting match that left the studio audience gasping and millions of viewers at home stunned. This is the shocking story of how a legendary actor's ego exploded on national TV. Before we dive into this insane confrontation, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. We bring you daily videos exposing Hollywood's darkest scandals, the biggest celebrity meltdowns, and all the drama the mainstream media tries to hide. Don't miss out on the chaos. The cameras were rolling on what everyone thought would be another pleasant morning on Good Morning America. Michael Strahan sat across from Robert De Niro, his trademark smile warm and welcoming as the show returned from a commercial break. The studio was buzzing with its usual energy, crew members moving quietly in the background, cameras positioned perfectly to capture what was supposed to be a friendly conversation about De Niro's latest film project. "Welcome back to Good Morning America," Strahan said, his voice smooth and professional. "We're here with the legendary Robert De Niro. Bob, thanks so much for being here this morning." De Niro nodded, but there was something already stiff about his demeanor. His jaw was set tight, and his eyes held a certain coldness that viewers might have mistaken for his famous intensity. "Thanks for having me," he said, his voice flat. Strahan, always the professional, dove right into the conversation. "So your new film is getting a lot of buzz. Tell us about taking on this role. What drew you to this character?" De Niro shifted in his seat, crossing his arms. "Well, it's a complex character. Someone with real depth, real pain. Not the kind of superficial stuff you see everywhere these days." Strahan nodded encouragingly. "Absolutely. You've always been known for bringing that depth to your roles. Speaking of your career, I wanted to ask you about some of your classic films. You've given us so many incredible performances over the years." "Yeah," De Niro said curtly, his tone suggesting he didn't want to go down this path. But Strahan continued, unaware of the storm brewing. "I mean, Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, Goodfellas. These are films that defined a generation. Do you ever look back at those roles and think about how they shaped your career?" De Niro's expression hardened. "I don't really like looking backward. I'm focused on what I'm doing now." There was an awkward pause. Strahan, sensing the tension, tried to lighten things up. Of course. And what you're doing now is fantastic. But I think a lot of our viewers would love to hear some stories from those sets. I mean, working with Scorsese all those years." "Look," De Niro interrupted, his voice sharp. "I didn't come here to talk about movies from 40 years ago. I'm here to talk about my new project." The audience shifted uncomfortably. Strahan maintained his composure, but his smile faltered slightly. "Right, I totally understand. We'll definitely get to that. I just thought—" "You thought wrong," De Niro snapped. "This is exactly what's wrong with these morning shows. You bring someone on, you say you want to talk about their current work, and then you just want to rehash the past. It's lazy." Strahan's eyebrows raised. The comment had stung, and the insult was clear. "Bob, with all due respect, we're having a conversation. Our viewers love hearing about your incredible body of work. There's nothing lazy about celebrating your legacy." "Legacy," De Niro scoffed. "That's just another word for past your prime. You want to talk about my legacy because you don't think what I'm doing now matters." The tension in the studio was thick now. Crew members exchanged nervous glances. Strahan leaned forward, his professional mask slipping just a bit. "That's not true at all. We specifically brought you on to talk about your new film. But you're one of the greatest actors of all time. Is it really so terrible that people want to hear about the work that made you a legend?" "There you go again with that word. Legend. Like I'm some relic in a museum." De Niro shot back, his voice rising. "I'm still working. I'm still relevant. But people like you just want to put me in a box labeled the old days." Strahan took a breath, clearly trying to reset the conversation. "Bob, nobody's putting you in a box. We have nothing but respect for you. But you seem really on edge this morning. Is everything okay?" "Don't patronize me," De Niro said coldly. "Is everything okay? What are you, my therapist now?" I'm just trying to have a conversation, Strahan replied, his voice steady but with an edge creeping in. You came on this show voluntarily. Nobody forced you to be here. De Niro leaned back in his chair, a bitter smile crossing his face. Yeah, well, maybe that was a mistake. You know, I heard good things about this show. People said you were different, that you actually listened. But you're just like all the rest of them. Strahan's jaw tightened. All the rest of them? What's that supposed to mean? These morning shows, De Niro said, waving his hand dismissively. They're all the same. Fake smiles, surface-level questions, no real substance. It's just entertainment fluff. The insult hung in the air. Strahan straightened in his chair, his professional demeanor cracking. Hold on now. This show has been on the air for decades. We've covered everything from breaking news to serious journalism. We're not just entertainment fluff. Could have fooled me, De Niro muttered. Excuse me? Strahan said, his voice sharper now. You heard me, De Niro replied, meeting Strahan's gaze with defiance. This whole thing is a circus. Bright lights, loud music, cooking segments. Where's the depth? Where's the real conversation? Strahan shook his head, clearly frustrated. Bob, we invited you here in good faith. We prepared questions about your career, your new film, topics we thought you'd want to discuss. But from the moment you sat down, you've been hostile. What's really going on here? What's going on is I'm tired of being treated like a dancing monkey, De Niro said, his voice rising again. You want me to smile, tell some funny stories, plug my movie, and get out? Well, I'm not here to dance for you. The audience was dead silent now, every eye locked on the unfolding confrontation. Strahan leaned forward, his patience clearly wearing thin. Nobody asked you to dance. We asked you to have a conversation. But you know what? If you don't want to be here, that's fine. We can end this right now. Oh, so now you're threatening me? De Niro said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. The big TV host is going to kick me off his show? I'm not threatening anyone, Strahan said firmly. But I'm also not going to sit here and let you insult this show, this team, and everyone who works here. We treat our guests with respect. We expect the same in return. De Niro laughed, but there was no humor in it. Respect? You want to talk about respect? How about respecting my time? How about respecting the fact that I've been doing this for 50 years and I know what a real interview looks like? Then enlighten me, Strahan challenged. What does a real interview look like to you? Not this, De Niro spat. Not some former football player asking me softball questions between commercials for cereal and dish soap. The shot was direct and personal. Strahan's expression hardened, and for a moment, the ex-NFL star's competitive fire flashed in his eyes. Wow. Okay. So that's what this is really about. You've got a problem with me personally. I've got a problem with the whole setup, De Niro said. You're not a journalist. You're a personality. There's a difference. Strahan stood up slightly, his body language shifting. You know what, Bob? I've interviewed presidents, world leaders, accomplished people from every walk of life. And you know what they all had in common? They showed up with respect and professionalism. But you came here with an attitude from the start. Maybe because I knew what I was walking into, De Niro countered, also standing now. Another puff piece on a morning show that doesn't matter. Doesn't matter? Strahan repeated, his voice rising. Millions of people watch this show every single morning. We inform them, we inspire them, we bring important stories to light. Just because we're not sitting in some dark room doing a 3-hour podcast doesn't mean what we do doesn't matter. De Niro shook his head. You just don't get it. No, you don't get it, Strahan fired back. You're acting like you're above all this, like you're too good to be here. But let me tell you something, nobody is too good to treat people with basic decency. I don't care how many awards you've won or how many classic movies you've made. That doesn't give you the right to come on this show and act like an asshole. The profanity caught everyone off guard. The studio gasped. De Niro's eyes widened, then narrowed dangerously. What did you just call me? Strahan didn't back down. You heard me. You've been acting like an asshole since you sat down, and I'm done pretending otherwise. De Niro took a step closer, his face reddening. You need to watch your mouth. Or what? Strahan challenged, standing his ground. His athletic frame was imposing, and he wasn't intimidated. You're going to do what exactly? I came here as a guest, De Niro said, his voice shaking with anger. And this is how you treat me? In front of millions of people? You came here and immediately started disrespecting everyone in this building. Strahan shot back. You insulted the show? You insulted me? You've been rude to everyone trying to help you? What did you expect? That we just sit here and take it? De Niro pointed a finger at Strahan. I expected to be treated like a professional, like someone whose work actually means something. Your work does mean something, Strahan said, his voice still heated. That's why we invited you here. But your work doesn't excuse your behavior. You want to talk about being a professional? Professionals don't throw tantrums on live television because they don't like the questions. Tantrum? De Niro repeated, his voice incredulous. You think this is a tantrum? I'm calling out the bullshit I see in front of me. This whole industry has become a joke, and shows like this are part of the problem. Strahan shook his head, frustration and anger mixing on his face. You know what your problem is, Bob? You're so caught up in your own legend, so wrapped up in your own importance, that you can't just have a normal human conversation anymore. Everything is beneath you. Everyone is wasting your time. Well, guess what? You're wasting our time too. The audience was transfixed, watching two powerful personalities collide in real time. De Niro's face was flushed, his hands clenched at his sides. I don't have to listen to this. You're right. You don't, Strahan agreed. And we don't have to give you a platform to act like this either. You want to leave? The door's right there. Are you kicking me off? De Niro demanded. I'm giving you a choice, Strahan replied. Either sit back down, show some respect, and have an actual conversation about your film, which is what you supposedly came here to do, or you can leave. But I'm not going to stand here and be your punching bag. De Niro stared at Strahan for a long moment, the silence in the studio deafening. Then he let out a harsh laugh. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. You invite me on your show, you disrespect me, and now you're giving me ultimatums? I didn't disrespect you, Strahan said firmly. I asked you basic questions. You're the one who came in hot and decided to make this into something it didn't need to be. You don't know what you're talking about, De Niro said dismissively. Then explain it to me, Strahan challenged. Tell me what I'm missing. Because from where I'm standing, you showed up to this interview with a chip on your shoulder, and you've been looking for a fight since minute one. De Niro's expression twisted with anger. You want to know what you're missing? You're missing the fact that I've forgotten more about this business than you'll ever know. I was winning Oscars when you were still playing high school football. There it is, Strahan said, nodding. There's the real issue. You can't handle that I had a whole successful career before this. You can't handle that I'm not some starstruck journalist kissing your ring. Is that it? Don't flatter yourself, De Niro snapped. You catching footballs doesn't impress me, and your acting doesn't give you a free pass to be a jerk, Strahan countered. I respected you when you walked in here. I've watched your movies. I appreciate your talent. But respect goes both ways, Bob. And you haven't shown an ounce of it since you arrived. De Niro grabbed his microphone and yanked it off, the sudden movement causing feedback to screech through the studio. I'm done with this circus. Then leave, Strahan said, his voice hard. Nobody's stopping you. Oh, I'm leaving, De Niro confirmed, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. And I'm going to make sure everyone knows what a joke this show is. Strahan crossed his arms. You do whatever you need to do, Bob. But before you go, let me say this. You came on this show and showed millions of people exactly who you really are. Not the tough guy from the movies. Not the legendary actor. But someone who can't handle a simple conversation without losing his cool. De Niro's face was scarlet now. You don't know anything about me. I know what I saw this morning, Strahan replied. And so does everyone watching. Screw you, De Niro said, his voice shaking with rage. And screw this show. Real classy, Strahan commented, shaking his head. Is that what legends do? Curse out their hosts on morning television? De Niro took a step towards Strahan, and for a moment, the tension suggested something physical might happen. Security personnel moved slightly closer, ready to intervene if necessary. But Strahan didn't flinch, standing his ground with the confidence of someone who'd faced down defensive linemen for years. You better step back, Strahan warned, his voice low and serious. This isn't the movies, Bob. You don't want to do something you'll regret. De Niro stopped, breathing heavily, his fists clenched. The two men stared at each other, the moment stretching out uncomfortably. Finally, De Niro spoke, his voice venomous. You're a disgrace to broadcasting. This show is garbage, and you're nothing but a puppet reading lines someone else wrote for you. Strahan's jaw clenched, but he maintained his composure. Is that your final word? My final word is this, De Niro said, loud enough for the entire studio to hear. I've been in this business for 50 years. I've worked with the best directors, the best actors, the best crews in the world, and this? He gestured around the studio dismissively. This is the bottom of the barrel. You're a joke. This show is a joke, and I was an idiot for thinking it would be anything different. The insults kept coming, each one designed to cut deeper, but Strahan remained standing tall, refusing to be broken down. You done? I'm more than done, De Niro said. I'm out of here. Good, Strahan said simply. Because you're no longer welcome on this stage. De Niro's eyes flashed. You can't kick me off. I'm leaving on my own. Then leave, Strahan said, gesturing toward the exit. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. De Niro ripped off the small mic pack attached to his belt and threw it on the chair. You haven't heard the last of this. I'm sure I haven't, Strahan replied. You'll probably go on some podcast and complain about how unfairly you were treated. But everyone here knows the truth. Everyone watching knows what really happened. De Niro pointed at Strahan one more time. You're going to regret this. The only thing I regret is wasting our viewers' time with this nonsense, Strahan said. Now if you're going to leave, leave, stop making threats, and just go. De Niro stood there for another moment, as if trying to think of one final devastating comment, but nothing came. Instead, he turned sharply and began walking toward the exit, his movements stiff with barely contained rage. Ladies and gentlemen, Robert De Niro, everyone, Strahan announced sarcastically to the audience. Slow clapping. The sarcasm was evident, and it pushed De Niro over the edge one final time. De Niro spun around. You think you're funny? You think this is entertainment? I think you need to leave, Strahan said, his patience completely exhausted. Right now, before this gets any worse. It can't get worse than this, De Niro spat. This is rock bottom. This show, you, all of it. A producer appeared from off-stage, approaching De Niro cautiously. Mr. De Niro, please, let's just... Don't touch me, De Niro snapped at the producer, pulling away. I know where the damn exit is. Strahan watched, arms still crossed, as De Niro made his way across the stage. The legendary actor was muttering under his breath, his body language radiating fury. The audience sat in stunned silence, unable to believe what they were witnessing. Just before reaching the exit, De Niro turned back one last time. You know what the worst part is? I actually thought this might be different. I thought maybe, just maybe, someone in morning television actually gave a damn about having real conversations. But I was wrong. It's all fake. You're all fake. Strahan didn't respond this time. He simply stood there, watching De Niro with an expression that mixed disappointment and resolve. The message was clear, there was nothing left to say. De Niro shook his head in disgust and pushed through the stage door, disappearing from view. The heavy door slammed behind him with a resounding thud that echoed through the silent studio. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The crew stood frozen, unsure of what to do next. Strahan turned back to the cameras, taking a deep breath to compose himself. His professional mask was back in place, though the strain of the confrontation was evident in his eyes. The studio audience remained quiet, processing what they'd just witnessed. The stage door through which De Niro had exited remained closed, a final punctuation mark on one of the most explosive confrontations in morning television history. Somewhere beyond that door, the legendary actor was undoubtedly still fuming, his dramatic exit from Good Morning America complete. The interview that was supposed to promote his new film had instead become a shocking display of ego, anger, and disrespect that millions of viewers would be talking about for days to come. The cameras continued rolling, capturing every moment of the aftermath. But the damage was done. Robert De Niro had walked off the set of Good Morning America, leaving behind a stunned studio and a host who had refused to back down in the face of Hollywood royalty's meltdown.